And speaking of gaslighting from our media, let's watch this Van Jones clip. I've wanted to show you guys this. In fact, I saved it, okay? Oman and damn, you people in the West are getting brainwashed. For real, Rayla. For real. For real. It's amazing. But the problem is, Rayla, is that those of us who are speaking out and fighting against the propaganda in the West, people are getting shut down, and our Congress is trying to shut us down, and companies are trying to shut us down. Like, they see that there are Americans that are trying to, and other people in the West that are trying to fight against this propaganda, and then they target them or they try to criminalize them. That's when they passed that law or they didn't pass it. They passed it through the House, criminalizing free speech because they don't want people fighting against the Israeli regime. So they're trying to make free speech illegal here. They don't want people talking about it. But this reminded me, speaking of all the gaslighting, of this clip from the other day regarding that came from Van Jones. And I saved it to watch it with you guys because it was so insane. He's so embarrassing. Okay, so just for context, super quick, for those of you who don't know, Perry Stein, thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. I appreciate your donation. You guys help me keep doing this work, so thank you so much. I love you guys. So for context, I don't know how many of you guys heard about the protest that happened last weekend in LA, where a bunch of settlers and Americans were selling property in Palestine, in occupied West Bank, to future settlers, which is illegal. It's illegal here. It's illegal under international law. And they were doing that. So people protested that. And of course, speaking of what Pranay said a second ago, our media are such liars, and it is such insane propaganda. They lie so much, and the propaganda is so thick in this country that they all spun it to say that it was an attack on Jewish people outside of a synagogue just for being Jewish, which is not what it was at all. That's not what it was. No one was attacking people for just being Jewish. What happened was these people held the event in a synagogue, which is pretty disgusting. Like, shame on you for holding it in a place of worship. And so people protested that. And then a Zionist attacked some of the protesters, and our entire media and our Congress all lied in unison and said that it was the protesters that were being violent. Okay, so that's what happens. That's what I mean when I say the propaganda in this country, in the West, in America, is so thick. It is so thick. The control that Israel has over our government and over our media is so thick that you can't even go and look for the facts about a protest that happened outside of this synagogue because they were selling illegally this property and this real estate without all of them lying about it and saying that it was actually about anti-Semitism. That's not what it was about. So our State Department lied, our Congress lied, our media lied, and all went on TV trotting out like the propagandists that they are and saying that it was an attack. Oh, and the police, good point out, Fua, you're right, the police, because they're the arm of this thuggery that comes out here and arrests peaceful protesters, and then they can come out here and they lie in coordination with our police, with our State Department, with the military-industrial complex, with the media, and say that this was an anti-Semitic attack, when in actuality, these were just pro-Palestinian protesters protesting against this illegal sale of real estate. And it was Zionists that physically attacked them. And that it's such propaganda. It's such propaganda. It's so thick. It's so thick. You're like drowning in it. You're drowning in the lies. Guys, it's so thick. You'd be like drowning in the lies and the propaganda. That's the reason why, too, I love when American media will be all, North Korea and Russia doesn't have a free press. Okay? North Korea and Russia doesn't have a free press like we do. No, we don't. You call this a free press? This is a joke. This is not a free press. Get what you get. What you get. Nothing free about our corporate propaganda. First of all, our press is owned by multinational corporations. Okay? Our press has been owned by multinational corporations for a long time, and their goal is to make a profit. They're not in the truth-telling business. They're not in the news business. They are in the profit-making business. That's number one. And number two, they will get lobbied by Zionists and will just perpetuate whatever grift and whatever lie they're promoting. So get out of here with, we have a free press. Just a person, thank you so much for the super chat. They have held it there for optics, so they could have twisted the narrative. Thank you again so much for the super chat. I appreciate you guys so much. They were held it there for optics. Oh, you're talking about the real estate event. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Honestly, I think that they held it there on purpose so that when people inevitably and understandably protested it, they could try to be victims. That's what I think happened. Okay. Let's watch this. So that's the context of this Van Jones clip.
Sunday's violent street protests between Los Angeles pro-Palestinian and pro...
I just like how she immediately starts it with violent protests, violent protests. It's like so embarrassing. Just the way they talk about it, the way that they frame it. It's just amazing. The framing is amazing. It's just amazing the way that they frame it, because whenever they talk about the framing and the words that they choose are amazing, because whenever they talk about Palestinians, it's always very passive. And they do this in corporate media, on TV and in print. Whenever they're talking about Palestinians, they just say things like died, like it's really vague. Gazans starving as bombs fall, but they don't tell you who dropped the bombs. It's all very passive, like it just happened. But then when it comes to like the Israelis, they use words, or October 7th, they use words like barbaric, and they'll use words like inhumane and savage when talking about Palestinians. It is always on purpose that they do that. Language is a very powerful tool, and they do that on purpose in order to dehumanize them.
Israel counter demonstrators. Protest organizers say they were targeting a synagogue where an Israel real estate event was taking place. Biden said he's appalled by what he saw. He said, quote, intimidating Jewish congregants is unconscionable, anti-Semitic, and un-American.
CNN obtained this video appearing to show two men wrestling on the ground as
first of all,
others kick them. The violence prompted LA's mayor.
First of all, fuck Joe Biden, like for real. He's such a piece of shit. Like, he literally will be, Joe Biden will be the first one to run out on TV and repeat one of their hoaxes. Like, literally. Like, he did it with the lie about the 40 beheaded babies hoax. Like, Joe Biden will literally be the first one to run out there and repeat one of the hoaxes. Like, it's just amazing. And then he says, oh, it's anti-Semitic. They were attacking them because of the place of worship. That's literally not what happened. But of course, I'm surprised they even mentioned the real estate event, CNN. I'm surprised they even mentioned it, because most people didn't. I don't know if you guys were on Twitter the other day when it happened, but most of the people that were talking about this did not even mention the real estate event. They just made it, they presented it as though the pro-Palestinian people were just attacking a synagogue. Like, that's how they made it seem. They made it seem like they were just attacking a synagogue because they're bigots. And like, that's obviously not what happened. Sorry, guys. I think I got cream in my eye. And then the other thing is them being like, oh, there were two men wrestling on the ground. That clip that they just showed went viral the other day, and they were claiming it was a woman. They were saying that this guy was like beating a woman, which wasn't true. They were both men. Yeah, it was honestly infuriating to watch this the other day play out on Twitter, because the amount of lying that was happening was just insane.
To beef up security at houses of worship around the city. Let's discuss with CNN senior political commentator and former Obama administration official Van Jones.
He's such a hack.
Van, great to see you.
Out
I'm
loud.
curious to get your reaction to these scenes playing out, not just in Los Angeles, but we've seen similar ones across the country.
My eye. That's what she said.
Well, look, and this is unacceptable.
sure.
As a father who's actually trying to raise my children in Los Angeles, I want to just applaud Mayor Bass, Governor Newsom, and President Biden for speaking up about this. Listen, if you don't like what's happening in Gaza, it's your right to protest. That's not a problem. But you protest a policy. You don't protest a people. When you protest a policy,
Liar. First of all, I like how he's like, protesting is like, you're right. But first of all, it's not really, because every time somebody protests, they attack them. And also they're trying to make it illegal. They're trying to make protesting illegal. Okay. That's number one. Number two, that line is vicious. And it was on purpose. Okay. That smear that he just did to say you protest a policy, not a people. That was an intentional choice. That was a strategy that he used because he wanted to make it seem like the reason why the pro-Palestinian protesters were protesting was because they're bigots, because they're anti-Semitic, that they're protesting a people. No, they weren't. They were protesting the illegal sale of property that is not theirs. And I love when dumb Americans pretend not to understand that concept. We understand that concept because this country doesn't give a fuck about a lot of things, but they care about their damn property rights. How many times have you heard of an American talk about their Second Amendment? Second Amendment. You come to my property rights. Don't tread on me. Gotcha. That's like Americans. They understand property rights. Americans care more about property rights than they do their own children, okay? So this idea of him pretending not to understand the problem with stealing someone's property is quite something. He's such a liar. Lies.
you go to City Hall and you protest. You go to the Israeli consulate peacefully, you protest. Maybe you go to your elected representative, you protest. You don't bum rush a Jewish neighborhood and run up on a synagogue. That's not protesting a policy, that's protesting a people. And that is across any line in America, and it has to be called out. And you have to also understand the context here. This is a neighborhood that's already been traumatized. Not just October 7th, which traumatized all Jewish communities, but that neighborhood in particular. Last year, in February, not one, but two Jewish men, Orthodox Jewish men, were gunned down, were shot in two back-to-back hate crimes. So you're dealing with a community that's already traumatized, they're already fearful, and then you go and you do something like this. I have no problem with people protesting policy. You cannot protest a people.
Well,
that is not a protest, that's a pogrom, and that has to stop.
Let's talk about the policy. Let's talk about how the Biden administration, how the president, let's talk about the policy.
When you do something like this, I have no problem with people protesting policy. You cannot protest a people. That is not a protest, that's a pogrom, and that has to stop.
Sorry,
let's talk about the policy. Let's talk about how.
I also want to talk about how actually disgusting it is that he called it a pogrom. A pogrom. Really? That's what you just said. That was a choice. First of all, it's amazing to me that there's like a Holocaust happening in Gaza right now, and they deny it. They're doing Holocaust denial. But then a bunch of protesters, pro-Palestinian protesters, will protest an illegal sale of real estate, and he calls that a pogrom. More gaslighting, endless gaslighting. So protesting a real estate event of illegal sales of illegal settlements is a pogrom, but the actual genocide happening in Gaza is not? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. He's such a he actually is the worst. He actually is the worst. And actually, yeah, what I love too is how, again, the way that our media and our culture and our country devalues Palestinian lives, that this was all over the news. This pogrom was all over the news because people were protesting these illegal sales. But you know what wasn't all over the news? The fact that a woman in Texas, a Zionist in Texas, tried to drown Palestinian children. For real. Literally. A psychotic Zionist in Texas tried to drown Palestinian children in a pool for no other reason than the fact that they were Palestinian. But you didn't see that on CNN. You didn't see that all over the front pages of the New York Times. You didn't see that all over Twitter. Wasn't trending the way that this was. Didn't see it all over TikTok. Weird. I wonder what Van Jones had to say about that. Because unlike protesting a real estate event, that would be a good thing to protest, since actually the Palestinian children were targeted because they're children. I mean, because they're Palestinian. So that's going after a people. It's just sick. It's literally sick.
The Biden administration, how the president's handling the policy, Van. How do you see it? Where does he need to improve on this?
Well, listen, I think that the president is in a tough position.
I love how they're like, he's worried about losing support from Jewish voters. It's like, you got a lot more to worry about, Playboy, because you're going to lose a lot of support from a bunch of young people and people who don't support your genocide. So maybe you should worry about that, and all the Arab voters. But they don't care about the Arab voters because they're racist, and because Arab voters in America, Arab American voters, do not have a lot of political clout. They don't really have... They're not a big enough voting bloc, and they don't have enough money or cachet yet in our politics to where they can have like a really, like, there, I don't think there is any like huge Arab lobby. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of any like mad big Arab lobby. And there's not, they haven't grown enough in their influence in the United States for Democrats to give a shit about them. Because again, Democrats only pretend to give a shit about minorities when they want their vote. Like, they don't care about Black people at all, but they know that Black people are a huge demographic of Democratic voters. So they pander to them every couple of years to get their vote, and then go back to not giving a shit. Yeah, for real, man with a long last name. They always do. I know, and it's amazing. No matter how much the New York Times does propaganda for the Israeli regime, you'll still see Zionists on Twitter acting like it's that it's like this leftist pro-Palestinian Arab paper. Like, that's how they treat it. It's so embarrassing. Like, that's what I mean too when I talk about this constant gaslighting. They literally take what's happening to the Palestinians and to Americans speaking out about it, or anybody in the West speaking out about it, and they turn it on its head and say it's happening to them. Like, they turn it on its head and say it's happening to them. So like, the New York Times does nonstop propaganda for the genocide and on behalf of the Israeli regime. And then if they even come out with an article that mentions AIPAC and all the money they spent, Zionists will tweet about it and go, geez, New York Times, why you got to be so anti-Semitic? We know you hate us. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is upside down world. It's upside down world. It literally is the Twilight Zone.
Because the base of the party is very concerned about these images that we keep seeing from Gaza, and he wants to take a strong stand on behalf of human rights for everybody. That's Joe Biden.
No,
at the same
don't.
time, I think it's a little bit naive for some people to think that if Israel would just suddenly just stop doing what it's doing, that rainbows and bunnies and sunshine would break out over the Middle East and it would all be fine. The hostages have to be returned. If you can call for a ceasefire on both sides. Hamas is still firing its rockets. They still have hostages kidnapped. So this is a complex issue, but here's what's not complicated. Politics can be complicated. Geopolitics can be really complicated. How you treat your neighbors, how you treat people in your community is not complicated. You don't run up. I haven't seen any Jewish people running up on mosques with Israeli flags. If they did that, I'd be denouncing that too. There's certain things you don't do. It is a red line.
Apparently he's not on Twitter then, because we have seen multiple assaults from Zionists on Palestinians even near mosques. Second of all, call me when the mosque is doing illegal sales of property that isn't theirs. Call me then. Also, the gaslighting too of, what do they think? That if they stop what they're doing, oh, you mean the genocide, that peace and rainbows and puppies is just going to break out in the Middle East? Who said that? Who said that? No one said that. What people are saying is stop murdering them. Stop killing them. Stop bombing them. Stop occupying them. Stop bombing these people that are helpless and are trapped in a concentration camp that you put them in. But to Van Jones, wanting that is rainbows and puppies and thinking that peace is just going to break out in the Middle East. Like, could he be more unbearable is the question. Could he be more unbearable?
If you want to be a part of a protest and they say, we're going to go to a Jewish community center, we're going to go to a mosque, we're going to go to a Jewish restaurant. That's not a protest. That's a pogrom. That's an anti-Jewish bigoted act. If you want to be a part of a protest, let's go to a mosque. Let's go and harass the Muslims. That's not a protest. So we've got to get clear in our country what is a fair protest about policy, you can agree or disagree, and what's going after people, human beings, terrifying moms, grandmas, children who are trying to be a part of a neighborhood. The Jewish neighborhoods in LA are well known. Nobody is confused where they are. So if you show up there wearing a keffiyeh, you show up there with your face covered, you show up there chanting river to the sea, that would be just like a white person running up with the Confederate flag in Harlem. You're not trying to start a conversation, you're trying to start a fight. Stop doing that. Don't do that. We don't want more violence. We don't want more fear. We don't want more terrified people.
Just so that we don't brush by that, he compared wearing a keffiyeh, which is a liberation symbol, a Palestinian liberation symbol, to the Confederate flag. That is anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian racism and Islamophobia. That literally is racist and Islamophobic, unironically. And I know that there are some people, I've heard people say this before. Oh, well, no, that can't be the case because Black people can't be racist or they can't be anti-Semitic. That's just cope. That's hardcore cope. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Well, no, because of the power imbalance. No, we're not talking about systemic racism. Yeah, you could make the argument and say, no, Black people don't benefit from systemic racism because they have been systemically oppressed. True. But on an individual level, can a Black person express Islamophobia and racism? Absolutely. And that's exactly what that was. Don't dance around it. That's exactly what that was. And I'm tired of people like this saying outwardly racist, Islamophobic things, anti-Arab things, and then being like, well, no, I can get away with it. And actually, I'm not racist because I'm Van Jones and I'm Black. It's like, no, you don't get to pretend that what you just said wasn't hideously racist just because you're Van Jones and you're Black. Like, no, bro, that's so unacceptable. Nobody should accept that. You can't talk about a liberation symbol that was born out of their oppression and their struggle and compare that to the Confederate flag, which was a symbol of slavery, and think that that's not a racist statement, not a bigoted statement, not an Islamophobic statement. It is. And people need to start holding people like this accountable and stop giving them a pass. It's so tired. This is insane. Totally.
We've got to be able to come together as a country.
And
if either side had an easy answer, it would have been solved.
At all.
I'm less concerned about the politicians now. I'm concerned about the people in my community in Los Angeles moving in a direction that is more and more dangerous, more and more scary, more and more destructive. The Jewish community does not need to have people doing those types of things. It's not helping anybody in Palestine, but it's making America a much less safe place for everybody.
it's tough to watch the discourse and the dialogue devolve into what we witnessed in LA and other places. Van Jones, great to get your perspective. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you.
They're such liars. Totally insane. He said the Keffiyeh and NLP brainwashing and technique. Yeah. It's just disgusting. It's so disgusting. It's just like unreal. Earlier app video. Oh, yeah, I saw that, David. Early videos of Van Jones when he was an activist are a whole different person. Yeah, because, you know, money and power is a hell of a drug. He's a fucking sellout. He got a lot of power and a lot of access and a lot of money by his association with Obama. And now he's just a corporate head. He's just a talking head for moneyed interests and corporations and wealthy people. Because I think they had that video, actually. Van Jones is a hack.
Students can do that in 1960.
Why?
The students can do that in 1970. The students can do that in 1985 and 86. In 1993, when we have the United States government building a death camp, a concentration camp for black people who have done nothing wrong but get sick and want justice. That's all they've done wrong. If we can't close that death camp, if this generation cannot prevent another Japanese American internment in our lifetime, we should all get haircuts and go get regular jobs and give it up. Now, if students can do that in 1960,
What an embarrassment. What a hack. Wow. It's amazing. Yeah, and here's a good reminder. Here's a good reminder of the gaslighting that's happening in this country, where people are getting called horrible names. They're getting attacked for wearing keffiyehs. They're getting smeared and lied about and libeled, the pro-Palestinian people. Also that, and we have to pretend that these people are all victims because they got uncomfortable at a protest. But yet we're all continually ignoring that there was a 6-year-old Palestinian American who was stabbed 26 times by his racist neighbor and killed. We have that, barely mentioned. And then we had these 3 boys who got shot for wearing keffiyehs. And that's another thing I want to point out why Van Jones is disgusting, because he is inspiring hate against people like this who wear keffiyehs. That's what he's doing. Those boys, they were like 18, 19, 20 years old. Those boys were targeted because they were speaking Arabic in between their English. They were kind of going back and forth, but also because they were wearing keffiyehs. So when Van Jones comes out here and says that wearing the keffiyeh is like wearing the Confederate flag, he's putting people's lives in danger. He's putting the lives of Palestinian and Arab people who wear keffiyehs in danger. That's what he's doing. And it's sick. It's disgusting. Because for those of you who don't know, who aren't American, the Confederate flag is a hate symbol that was used during the Civil War and has been used since by violent racists who believe in segregation and who wanted to keep slaves. That's what he's comparing the keffiyeh to. And he is putting them in danger when he says disgusting things like that. That boy on the far right of that photo is paralyzed. They all lived, thank God, when they all got shot. But the boy on the far right was paralyzed from it at 20 years old. Man is charged after hitting a pro-Palestinian protester with his car. And then you have the most recent one. A woman reportedly attempted to drown 2 Muslim Palestinian children in a pool in Texas. Yeah, that's crazy. It is crazy. Sorry, I just saw a comment that said that Candace Owens called for the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians during the Right of Return March. Is that true? Pranay, do you have like a search I can search to find it? Like a term I can search to find it? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And that's like how the propaganda works, is that like you also just don't hear it. They don't report on it. Like when the March of Return happened, the Western media didn't report on that at all. I didn't even know it happened until years later. Yeah, I don't want to say it's true because I haven't seen that, but if somebody has like a search term, I could search to do it. It's honestly exhausting because it's just nonstop gaslighting. It's literal nonstop gaslighting, nonstop lying, nonstop projection, like from everyone, from our media, from our government, from our corporations, from everyone. Because I told you guys, I'm sure that most of you who are in this live right now already know that like I got targeted a couple weeks ago by YouTube, and they basically demonetized my entire account because they claimed untruthfully that I was, quote, promoting terrorism and extremism. It was so insane. It was such an insane experience. It was so crazy. It was like so crazy. It was so insane. Like I did a live stream and they didn't do it until 2 days later. It was so weird. Like 2 days later, they did it. I did a live stream where I was just covering what had happened at the Al-Nusrat refugee camp that got attacked by the IOF during their hostage rescue. And I'm just talking about it with you guys like I'm talking about you with anything, reporting on what happened. And then they claimed that I was supporting and promoting terrorism and like totally like shut off like my whole account, kicked me out of the YouTube partner program. Like it was so insane. And that's what I mean when I say the gaslighting and the targeting from everybody, from our institutions, whether or not it is our media, whether or not it's our government, or whether or not it's our corporations. Because the fact that that happened to me when I didn't even do that, like I didn't do anything even close to that. I didn't do anything. Like I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything close to what they were saying, but they targeted me. And yet you can go on any Zionist YouTube channel and see the most deranged shit, the most genocidal shit, genocidal deranged shit, and nothing. It's so embarrassing. Oh, I felt like, what was the other thing I was going to check? Oh, yeah, somebody had brought up the ADL Wikipedia, which I don't know. Is it anti-Semitism in Ireland is spiking? No, it's not. No, it's not. Oh, you guys must be talking about this.